This is a short video on how to document your inspections. Lumbee uses an app called LiveSort, which we have developed to capture all of our inspections. The first thing you will do is click on LiveSort, and the LiveSort app will open up. For the next step, this is your home screen. You're going to start the work order. This is where you're going to start documenting your inspections. The next screen you're going to see is you're going to select what work order you are working on. In this case, there's two work orders that are loaded onto this tablet. And we're going to work on work order 11413, which is our practice work order. Here you'll be able to review all the work instructions for the work order. You can scroll up and down, make sure you read the entire thing, and make sure you understand what's going on. At the very bottom, you're going to hit Next, which is going to take you to the pictures that are associated with the work order. Make sure you scroll all the way down and look at all of them. Make sure you understand the pictures that are associated with the work order. At the very bottom, you'll be able to hit Next to move forward. Here, you'll select the location where you're working. There may be multiple locations. You must select the location where you are actually at. These are the part numbers that are associated with this work order. You may be working on several part numbers at the same time. You need to make sure you document the work that's being done against the actual part number. Here we're going to select 112, which is a test part. Now this is where you have to select what type of inspection you're doing. I'm going to exit the app and explain this in a little bit more detail. So a container inspection, all the parts in the container are exactly the same. If the parts are different colors or different in any way, then it is a rack. Doesn't matter if it's a cardboard box, a plastic container, a big container, a small container. If all the parts are the same that's in the container, it is a container inspection. Containers have what's called a B10 label on them. As you can see from this B10 label, it has one part number that's associated with all the parts in this container. It also gives you the quantity. It also tells you the FIFO date and gives you the serial number. But all the parts are the same. When you're dealing with a rack inspection, there may be many different types of parts in the container. The parts might be left hand and right hand. They may be different colors. They may even look identical, but the internal components of the part may be different. If the parts are different, they'll be identified by a rack sheet. A rack sheet will list out all the parts that are in the container and what they are exactly. It'll give you at the top left, it'll say the build number that the first part goes on, and then they'll work their way right down through. The first build's 48541 on the left. The last build on this sheet is 48558. And these parts are sequenced, so they will go on the vehicle in a certain order. And each car which is known as a build, will get a different part. So all the parts in a rack are not the same. The last one's a vehicle. With a vehicle, you're working actually on the vehicle. And each vehicle has what's called a build number. So it's a way of identifying what vehicle it is. So a build sheet will look like this, and as you can see, it says that the build number for this particular vehicle is 48641. So if you're documenting the vehicles, you're going to use this number right here. So let's go back to LiveSort. So using that information, if we are going to be working on a container which has a B10 label, we're going to select container, and at the very top you can see it has the date, your shift, the work order number, the part number, and the location you're doing the work at. You must verify this information is correct. The next thing you're going to do is click here beside label quantity, and you're going to type in how many parts are in the container. The next thing you're going to do, looking at your B10 label, is you're going to select the FIFO date. The FIFO date is basically the date that the part was produced. So we'll select whatever date that was. Whatever it says on the B10 label is what you put in there. The serial number, which is also on the B10, can be a mixture of numbers and letters. So we'll just randomly pick something here, but whatever the B10 label says, that's what you'll type in here. The next thing is, how many parts did you check? When you're working out of a container, you should check the whole container. So out of that container, you checked 100 of them. If there's an issue with the part and one of the parts are not okay, you will click right below it where it says not okay, and you'll put the number of parts that were bad in that container. These are the parts that are getting rejected out. You are not repairing them, you're just rejecting them. If the work order says you're supposed to rework the parts, and you rework 4 parts, you'll click it, put it underneath reworked. So only rework a part if the work order says to rework the part. In some cases, the part may not be able to be reworked, so you may have reworked parts and not okay parts that you had to reject out. If you need to put in a comment explaining further, you can click here where it says comments, and you can type your comment here. Try not to put in a bunch of a long lengthy statement. Only put a comment if you need to, and make it clear and precise. Then down at the bottom you can submit this inspection. So I'll click on submit and continue. Now if I happen to be working on the same part, I can continue forward. And I'll also note up here at the top where it's got a green bar and says success, that means there was no issues with my data that I put in, and it accepted it. If there is a problem, you'll get a red bar, and that usually means you forgot to put in the quantity checked, or you forgot the label quantity, or you missed some data or something that is preventing it from accepting it. If I'm continuing to work on the same part, I can just click in here, put in how many parts the next container is, select my FIFO date, put in my serial number that's on the B10, the number of parts I checked, how many parts I rejected or reworked. Make sure you select the correct column and then hit submit and continue. If we change the part number, if we move on to another part number, then we need to go back to home, start the work order. We need to go back into it. And going back into it, here we're going to select a different part number. So if we change part numbers, we need to change it in here. We're going to go back in the container. Now you'll see that the date and shift are correct, the work order number is correct, the part number is correct, and my location is correct. And then I can continue on with my inspection. Make sure you're getting this information off the B10 label. And if there's no rework and we did not reject any parts, we can just simply hit submit and continue. And then at the top it says success. Now, if your date, your shift, or your work order number, or your part number, or your location is not correct, you need to back out of the work order and select the correct work order number, part number, or location. If the date or the shift is not correct, you must notify your lead so they can load the work order underneath the correct date and shift. Do not put the inspections underneath the wrong date or shift. So that pretty much explains what how to do a container inspection. So let's go back to home and let's start the work order again, but this time let's look at the rack inspection. So with the rack inspection, when we get to this point here, we're going to select rack. Now, once again, you're going to make sure your date, your shift, your work order number, your part number, and your location is correct. Now on your rack sheet that I showed you earlier, it has a rack number. If for some reason it does not have the rack number, it is not required. In some cases, they do not give you a rack number. But where the beginning build number is, the very first number, let's go back and look at our rack sheet. The very first number on our rack sheet is 48541, and then this has 3 pages to it, so we go to the last page and see what the last build number is. And what we're going to do is plug those numbers right in here. So I think it was 48541, and then whatever that last number is, you'd plug it in here. Then, if there's any parts that are reworked or not okay, this is where you're going to document it. Actually, right here where it says checked. So, let's just make this an even number, just for simple math. So, there's 1,000 parts in this rack. We're going to say we checked all 1,000 of them. Now you're going to document out of that 1,000 parts how many bad parts that you have. So if there were 3 parts that were rejected out, I'm going to put that 3 right there. If I reworked 5 parts, I'm going to put 5 right there. If I want to add a comment, I'm going to click here where it says comment, and I'm going to type whatever my comment is here. Again, it should not be a lengthy comment. It should be clear and concise and just maybe a brief description, and it is only required if you feel you need to put something in there to explain the situation. Then you're going to once again just hit submit and continue. At the top you'll see the green bar, and if we're continuing to do the same work order with the same part numbers, we're just going to continue to fill this information in and continue to go down, hit submit and continue. The last type of check, let's go back to home and we're going to look at the vehicle inspection. We're going to start the work order. We're going to go to the work order. We're going to go down to the bottom and hit next. Once again, we can look at all of our pictures. We're going to hit next. We're going to select the location we're at. There may be multiple locations on the work order. You need to make sure you select the correct location. Here you must select the correct part number. And then we're going to go to vehicle inspection. Now with the vehicle inspection, you're going to document the VIN number that's associated with the vehicle. So some of these vehicles at this, depending on at what stage of the inspection, where it is in the car build, you may not know what the VIN number is, but try to get the VIN number. It should be on your build sheet. So we're going to put in whatever that is. Then on your build sheet, you should, let's go back to our build sheet here real quick. On our build sheet, you can see what the build number is. So we're going to document that 48641. Now, if the vehicle's okay, you're not going to do anything. If you had to rework something and the work order says to rework something, then you're going to check it that you reworked it. If you had to reject it, you're going to put an OK. Then you're just going to hit submit and continue. At the top, you'll see we have the green bar. So to recap, go back to home. When you start, you're going to make sure you have the right work order. You're going to make sure you read your work order and understand it. You're going to make sure you look at all the pictures associated with that work order. Here you're going to select the location. Here you're going to select what part number it is you're working on. You're going to select what type of inspection you are doing. Then you're going to make sure you completely fill out the form after you verify the date, the shift, work order number, part number, and location are correct. That block at the top is very important that you look at that and make sure it's correct. When you are done at the end of the day, go back to home. Here you can review all the inspections you put in. If you need to make a change to something, you can click on the blue pencil next to it, and you can make changes to your data. And you can hit update, and it'll update that inspection. If you accidentally put an inspection in you should not have, you can hit the remove button and remove that data. And by doing this, you're going to delete it. But at this point, this information is only on the tablet. To export this data and put it into the system, you have to make sure you give this tablet to your lead at the end of the day so that they can hit approve all inspections. They can put in their username and password, which will give them the ability to approve this data. When they approve this data, it'll all disappear off of the tablet. So I think that pretty much covers everything. If you have any questions, please ask. Don't guess at what you're supposed to be doing. Thank you. Bye.